Welcome to Behind the Knowledge, a best hour podcast where we dive deep into the lives and stories of inspiring coaches from all walks of life. The two hosts of this show are me, Pat Barber, and my good friend and fellow coach, Todd Akuto. Each week, we'll sit down with the most amazing coaches we can find, uncovering their unique paths, the challenges they've faced, and passions that continue to drive them. Whether you're a seasoned coach, an aspiring one, or simply somebody who likes listening to stories of how people achieve the success that they have, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by the powerful stories and insights from the world of coaching. This is Behind the Knowledge. Let's jump in.
We're back. Another episode of Behind the Knowledge. This time we got a super fun guest. We got Taylor Mid-Self or Mids-Elf.
Mids-Elf.
Taylor's Mid, and then he's on himself. We'll get through this in just a second. But we also have Mr. Todd Akuto, my lovely guest host here. And we were just talking mad smack before we hit record, and I wanted to make sure we hit record and got all the mad smack on camera. But Taylor was saying that he knew Todd from the Spot the Flaw? Or which
Teaching
one is it?
Movement. Teaching Movement. Yeah.
Teaching Movement, yeah. You and Eric O'Connor made the Teaching Movement piece?
Of course. Yep.
Of course. And so what did you take away from the Teaching Movement course, Taylor?
I took away that you are too advanced to do it. That was my first takeaway. I also took away that I'm delayed enough, and I'll use the proper term, delayed enough to need that course. It just does a good job of giving you kind of a broader understanding, maybe, at least for me, of developing your own progressions. I won't say I'm super well-versed, but I am well-versed in a lot of the CrossFit progressions you guys use in level 1 because Andy, that's what he has us use at the gym. So it's a big deal that we use those. But I had never done a ton of practice developing progressions for other movements. Kettlebell swing, for example, things that aren't a part of the 9 foundational movements. So stuff like that.
Oh, hell yeah. Awesome. Maybe I'll have to go check those out finally, Todd. Check out.
Be nice. There's a whole library of online courses, Pat. I'm sure you would get a lot out of those.
But isn't it fascinating that like I'm in this community and I don't really know about that? Like the way it's been marketed or the way it's not come across my desk as hey, go to this. Like I should be getting ads for this 24/7. Don't you think like if I'm
media
a coach,
or marketing?
Well,
it would be
Be careful, Pat. You realize that is actually part of your job responsibility being on seminar staff. It is part of our motherboard that has a list of all of the online courses that you should take, and those are listed in there. So you should be notified of those.
I recognize that, and I've, having had to re-up my level 4 like 3 times now, I've scoured all those internet courses. So it's one of the more recent ones that has come out,
yes.
I would say. And it's just, but the fact that it came out and I haven't been like force-fed, hey, check out this new thing. Here's all this social media around it. I mean, what the heck? Like, honestly, that blows my mind. Like there's things that exist within this space. And I think they're starting to do better with like the professional coach and how they're rolling that out. And that's coming across my desk a bit more, but it's just very indicative of how much great content is not being marketed in a way that it can be seen by the people who probably would desire to see it, like myself.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'd love to see your ugly ass in there.
There you go. Anyways, let's get to the point of this thing. So we've got Mr. Taylor Mid-Self on the call with us. You're CrossFit level 3. You are co-host, Shut Up and Scribble, and then also the founder of Sentinel Training. Anything I'm missing there?
I coach at Andy Hendel's gym, head coach there, and then that's about it. I think that covers it.
What is your coaching journey like? How'd you get into coaching?
I started CrossFit in late 2016, early 2017. I saw the Ranch Chipper. They were playing on ESPN, where it was like the medicine ball, GHD sit-ups, wall balls, running with the wall ball up the hill. I saw that work and I was like, "Whoa, that's super cool." I was like interested in CrossFit. My sister had started. I took a class at Jeff Tincher's gym. His wife was running Reston at the time. He was running Fairfax. It was right next to my house. I took a class there with my sister. It was like deadlifts, rope climbs. Destroyed my shoes and shins, and I didn't go back for a while. I was really big into like running and body weight stuff, like pull-ups, push-ups, swimming, running. So I didn't go back. And then like a year later, I actually got an Instagram ad for this gym down the street, and I went there, started taking CrossFit classes, and then just kind of drink the Kool-Aid. I have an addictive personality, so I liked it a lot. I wanted to have a free membership, to be honest. So I took my level 1 there.
And was this still at Fairfax?
No. It was just at a different gym.
Okay.
So I got my level 1, interned, and then started coaching. I didn't have a great experience there. It wasn't. I don't know. I guess I don't really give a shit. There were 2 owners. One was amazing, and she was. I want to say she was a level 2. The other was not. The other was very. It was like money, money, money. How can I squeeze and pinch every member? Even to the point where my mom will like recount taking a class there and being like, I remember going through the workout and like one of the owners coaching the class, going through the class, telling them about all these extra things they're offering in the middle of the workout. So I ended up leaving there as I was starting to do CrossFit more. I was starting to commit the sin of more than one workout a day. And I went to CrossFit Fairfax because I knew of Jeff. Christy Atkins was going to Reston.
Yeah.
That was one of the sister gyms. She had a competitors program, so I started training with her a little bit.
With Christy?
Yeah, with Christy.
Oh, man, she's great. I haven't seen her in forever. She was such a competitor.
Yeah.
Like, she just grinded it out year after year, where I'd watch her and just be like, how are you still here?
Right.
Grinding and doing it. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so I was training with her, fell in with her and her coach, who coached me. He's also a level 4, John Main, a long time.
John Main.
Yeah.
He worked with us for a while.
So I worked with him for a really long time, and I actually wasn't coaching. And then Jeff, they were losing a coach and needed coaching. And he actually had to ask me a few times because I was kind of the experience I had at the other gym. I was like, I just don't like that at all. But then Jeff roped me in, and I kind of just fell in love with him. I come from a family of coaches, though. My dad was a coach, sports coach his whole life. My grandfather was as well. Football, baseball coaches. But yeah, Jeff, I would say probably sparked the fire for me in terms of enjoying coaching. He's just got so much passion when he does it, and you can see how happy it makes him. He's a people person. Yeah. And yeah, I love that aspect of it.
I remember when Jeff first came on the scene and he was like the old dude, and it was like that was in 2007. You know, I think he was maybe 40, and everyone was like, "Dude, Jeff Tincher's gnarly," because he is. Like the guy is insanely fit, and but that was then, and he's so genuine as a human. Like it's like what you see is what you get, right? And he's like it's just such a pure person. I'm so stoked that was one of your first experiences.
Yeah.
So you've moved your way from that into kind of coaching, and how did you end up finding going from Jeff Tincher's gym to Hendel's?
So I'm sober, so this is a different kind of a whole different route I won't go down. But I had been sober for maybe 5 or 6 years when I found Jeff's gym and CrossFit.
Does sober mean alcohol free, or does it mean like you don't get drunk?
All alcohol free and drug free, completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I went to rehab when I was younger. I had a big issue as a young guy, which shocks a lot of people. But I have no issue talking about it. We're here talking about coaching. But so this is part of it because my cousin had just gotten newly sober. He was transferring to a school in Charlotte. I was like a semester away from finishing, and I was really unhappy with the undergrad program that I was in at George Mason University. And they apparently at UNCC had a much better program as a social work major. And I went there and to move in with my cousin and transfer to that school. But I had also gone down a couple times prior to and met Andy and made sure there was a gym I could go to. Jeff and Maggie recommended I go see Andy. Me and him kind of clicked. And he's kind of taken me under his wing. And that was maybe in 2019.
Okay, so that's 2019. And then the universe was like, guess what? And then what happened?
COVID. Yeah, that hit actually. And I dropped out of school. Everything went online. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to pay to. I think I worked at a rehab also while I was in Virginia and coaching CrossFit. Just due to my own personal experience, I didn't have like any certifications or a degree in social work at that point, but I wanted to get into that line of work. And the further along I got in that program, the more it became clear that so much of the industry is trying to force help people that don't necessarily want it for themselves. And then another massive part of it is like the insurance industry and then paying for rehabilitation and all this stuff. And it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. Whereas CrossFit, you know, you're helping people that are making the choice to be there. They're not court ordered at your affiliate. So it's just so much more rewarding. And, you know, I had a lot of people tell me not to drop out. Andy was one of them. I was like, fuck it, I'm dropping out. And I'm just going to do CrossFit full time, whatever that means.
So it sounds like you got into CrossFit and you like the obviously doing CrossFit and the competition side of it. Mm-hmm. Got convinced to get into the coaching. I think it's kind of unique in this day and age. Most of the people that are into competing maybe will coach to get the free membership like you mentioned, but don't seem to get as passionate about coaching. They're not a full-time coach. They're not as interested in developing as a coach. What do you think drew you towards that? Was it just the example that you got from Jeff? Was it something else? I
think in a broader sense, I really don't know that I'm that passionate about competing. I'm so passionate about CrossFit and doing it. Like I am so addicted to it. I want to do it so much. And I feel like maybe not naturally good at it, but to the extent that I like to do it, it allows me to be good. And it just seems like kind of sometimes the natural thing to do. Oh, I qualified for quarterfinals. I qualified for semifinals. I should go. The coaching aspect, it's a large part of sobriety, or at least the 12-step sobriety that I'm a part of, is being of service to other people. And a really important thing to me in my spirituality is trying to help other people genuinely. You know, you get things by giving unconditionally. And it just is a very good feeling to help people who really want it, to help give them change that they're looking for.
Did you have in your experience, I know a lot of people who CrossFit actually draws quite, has a pretty heavy draw for people who have addictive personalities.
Right.
Because there's a physiological and a psychological priming that's like very similar to the payoff of other addictions.
Right.
I would say of the addictions that exist, it's a healthier one.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But what I see a lot of people who have those similar addictive personalities get into it, but then go so hard in it that they burn out and they just consume so much, and they start doing the double days, they start doing the triple days, they start like their entire life is it, that they burn out. And then a lot of those I've actually seen not take responsibility for their own
obsession,
goal,
right?
Obsession, and they're like, CrossFit killed me.
Right.
Like,
I hate that.
It's real bad. It bothers me so much. But have you experienced any of that, of like filling that void with CrossFit and starting to head that path at all? Like, have you, and then maybe steering away from it? Like, what is your experience like with that?
So before I even started CrossFit, I had a really bad skateboarding accident. So I tore my ACL in high school playing football. I didn't really have an issue. They did the repair, reconstruction, whatever, and I was fine. And then like maybe 5 or 6 years later, I was skateboarding and like bent it backward. It just destroyed it. And so through some of the initial years of me competing, I had little issues, like predominantly in like deep flexion, a single leg squat on the left side, or a front squats or heavy cleans, like overhead squats or things like that hadn't bothered it. But anyways, this is all just to say I had become so wrapped up in training to compete at one point that I could feel, okay, this is all I have. I dropped out of school. I don't have anything else. I've got to make this work somehow. I can't coach every class at our affiliate. Andy won't let me, and he doesn't want me to.
Not sustainable.
Then I had retweaked that knee essentially from that skateboarding accident. And that was kind of a bit of a come to Jesus, for lack of a better term, moment for me, where it was like, hey, you know, that is clearly not going to be everything in life. It's not going to give me the life that I want. I have to do something else. I know I want it to be CrossFit. I love CrossFit so much. And the worst part of that whole kind of period was training would be going really well. I'd be really happy. You know, my happiness was kind of dependent on the success I was having or how good things were going. And then I would tweak my knee a little bit. And then the hardest part of that was like, man, I have to stand in front of the whiteboard and coach people, and I can't even demo the movement they're doing for the day. This is miserable. so miserable. I just love doing CrossFit. I don't want to be in there and feel like I can't do anything, or I'm basically castrating myself by training too hard, hurting myself. So I definitely experienced that. And now I'm at a point where if I feel good, I'll do things. If there's any inclination of like not feeling good, I just don't push it. There's no point. I just want to have fun.
Nice.
And enjoy CrossFit.
I'm sure that experience gives you some perspective too to provide for your athletes and your clients, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's more important to be healthy enough to do this, one, and then number two, even if there's something you can't do, it's still more important to find something that you can.
Right.
And
yeah.
Set the example with them with that. So it sounds like you realize that competing probably wasn't going to be fully your thing. And just coaching at Andy's gym wasn't going to be it either, because you just can't coach enough probably to get out of it what you want to. Is that where Sentinel Training comes into play?
Yeah, that is. So this was maybe 2.5 years ago, or maybe, April 2021, right before semifinals. I'd qualified. I had made semifinals the year before. I had missed the games by one place, went to the last chance, missed by one place again, and then tested workouts with Dave at the ranch, did another competition in the off season, won it, was like feeling great. And then right before semifinals, I was doing like a dip and drive, warming up a clean and jerk at 185, and in the dip just tore my meniscus. And just the dip and drive of a push jerk, and 185 for at that level is kind of a pretty moderate weight. It's not anything crazy. So it was just a accumulation of things. So after that, I was like, wow, I really don't have anything. What am I going to do? I had had to that point a lot of like sour experiences, or my own kind of opinions of a lot of newer programs that were coming out, it just seemed like every competitor and their brother was training in such a segmented way. 8-week rowing progression, 12-week 5-3-1 Wendler, sandbag cleans and echo bike, same workout every week progressing. And it just was so anti everything that I had been around and what I believed. And also, when I started CrossFit, the most fun thing about it was every time I took a class, I was doing something new and learning something new. Even if it's a movement I had done 100 times, maybe it was in a workout or a format I'd never done before, something like that. And that part of it for me made things the most fun. And that kind of intentional variance gives you the best adaptation. So I had a strong passion for maybe coming up with something for competitive athletes, yes, but also for just people who want to do CrossFit. Maybe they don't go to an affiliate, they do it in their garage. They have a lot of experience. It's not like a beginner program, but it's kind of like main site, old school CrossFit type of stuff in the workouts. There's definitely some things that I do that's a lot different than typical CrossFit, but
what would you say those are?
I use like I don't want to call them microcycles. That would be like a 3-on-1 off would be a microcycle, but I definitely do some strength progressions that are not so 12-week, same thing every week, but they're like 5 on, 1 off, or 4 weeks on, 1 week off. And through each week, it's not so rigid. Like it's not necessarily 5's week 1 at 70%, 5's week 2 at 80%. Maybe it's a back squat, 5-4-3, 5-4-3, 5-4-3 week 1, and then 4-3-2, or 3-2-1, 3-2-1, or clean and jerk waves. And then 1 week there's a pause or a different complex or something like that. So there are some strength progressions on the compete track and also on the 60-minute track. And I find that I like that for competitors because it definitely gives you a linear way to see progression without totally killing variance. I think competitive programs overdo it. And I had a lot of demand from the 60 track that wanted to be in on those. So they get kind of a lighter version, so to speak, where they don't have necessarily 5 lifting days, but maybe it's 3. And maybe every week the skill development day is a different gymnastic skill each week, or something like that. And there's,
so I did it for a month. I did it last month, and it's great. I think it's great. And I think to me, there's a big difference between training an individual and training an affiliate. I think,
right.
when you're programming for an individual and they're kind of able to hit it at their own pace and they're able to kind of spend the time in the gym just working with themselves, a little bit more exposure to strength is totally fine, especially if that's what you want. In addition to that, most of your stuff seemed to be like at different. You go off of rate of perceived effort, like the
right,
RPE.
not percentage.
Yeah, not percentages, and it was kind of based off how you were feeling, and it was just more exposure to that. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I wasn't able to hit the strength every time because I was like,
right.
fuck, I don't have it in me. I'm just gonna do this thing here. It also appeared as though you were trying to not double down on movement patterns quite the same way, and it felt good. I liked it when I was doing it, so I'm a fan.
It seems like another thing that's unique about it is you provide like additional guidance coaching wise. Do I understand this right? Do you guys do video reviews? You give personalized feedback coaching wise, things like that, education on and that kind of stuff? How does that work within the program?
Yeah, I said like on each, when we start, like I tell people, everyone that signs up, like, hey, if you have video of a particular movement or exercise you have an issue with, send it to either our Instagram page or the message board. And I wish people would utilize that a little more. We do get a lot of video for, like, at the beginning of each week, I'll say, hey, this week, send us some video of these couple lifts. Whatever. This week it's send some video of a clean and jerk wave and then a power snatch from Saturday. And me and the other coach that's helping me give video review for sure. But I have had people, like I had this one woman, Kristen, send me some video of her squat. She's like, hey, I just suck at squatting. I have long femurs. I'm never going to be a good squatter. I have to squat with my heels elevated. And through the platform was able to like send her a CrossFit video of squat therapy on the wall. And I was like, hey, focus on these couple things. Doing squat therapy. Let's do this like 2 or 3 times a week. And then she's like PR'd every squat she has and can do thrusters at 55 pounds in workouts now, which is like, I love being able to do that.
Yeah. It's crazy what some positioning will do for you, right? And some coaching and some guidance.
Are you a CrossFit coach who's feeling stuck in their development? You're not alone. Many coaches lack good guidance when it comes to how to develop as a coach. They either don't have strong examples they find themselves around, they may lack support from their gym owner, and they just feel unprepared going into their next credential. That's why we made the Knowledge Pro, to fill that gap. It's a mentorship program built for coaches like you. It uses the Knowledge Daily, our comprehensive video library, as well as extra content that we put directly into the Knowledge Pro on our live weekly calls twice a week to mentor you and get you to the next level of development. We've got progressions, we've got scales, we've got one-off tips and tricks, we've got full coached classes by level 4 coaches so you can see an example of what it means to do this job well. All of that will also be walked through each week on those live calls, so that you have a soundboard to bounce off of and a group of coaches looking to be better to help support you in your endeavors. Coaching isn't just knowing what to do. It's also knowing how to do it. And that takes 2 things. 1, an example, and 2, practice. Practice is on your end. You got to go out there and do it. We can help provide that example and the support with the Knowledge Pro. If you want to know more, click the link below and give the Knowledge Pro a shot. I look forward to seeing you on one of the next calls. How wild is it, Taylor, that people don't take advantage of, hey, reach out to me anytime? Like I've run programs for years online and been like, look, send me a message directly. Like, here's my text, here's my email, and you've got like hundreds of members and you're like, what the hell? Like nobody's utilizing the 20 years of experience I have. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what that disconnect is between like you're paying for my service. I feel like I don't know. I
feel like it's like people are intimidated or they don't want to feel like a burden. Like how many people, when you're coaching class, they're hurt and you're like, hey, come to class today. I got you. I can work around this. And they're like, I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to be a problem. And you're like, that is literally my job is to customize this for you. Yeah. Like this is literally the only reason I'm here. You're not a burden, but for whatever reason, people feel that's the case.
And I charge a cheap price. And I think people maybe also are like, I don't want to do that for this amount, but that's kind of the whole way I'm trying to undercut every other program. Like that's, hey, you're taking food off my table by not allowing me to, do that. I want to be more for less.
Yeah.
I've also seen some stuff that you posted online as far as like guidance on giving whiteboard briefs, examples of like specific warm-ups in class and stuff like that. What's your vision for developing coaching?
Developing coaching within myself or coaching in general?
Yes.
Okay. Well, for myself, I have a goal of getting the level 4. I'm working with Pat a little bit with that, a lot of it, which is great. I want that because I don't want there to be like, oh, this next thing that I haven't done or can't do. I think just from a personal standpoint, I want to be the absolute best that I possibly can be. And same for the guy who works with me, Bryson. He's getting his level 3, and
that's just such a badass perspective, man. And something like I said, like you just don't see that as often anymore, especially for somebody that's, in the space and already accomplishing things, right? You've got a program that's going well. You've got some different things going on. And it's like, no, that's all right. I still want more. That's awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah. And to distinguish myself too, like as far as I know right now, I mean, John was Christy's coach and he was a level 4. Caroline Lambray just got her level 4 and she's Jeff's coach, but I don't know a lot of coaches on that side in the space that have even a level 3. It's few and far between.
I think I want to say Scott Panchik has a level 3. I think
he
Knifer has
Panchik
a level
does.
4.
Yeah.
Panchik has a level 3.
And
I think
Knifer
has a level 4.
I didn't know that.
I think I'm pretty sure he does.
Yeah.
Who's Knifer?
I would, Adam Knifer, Justin Medeiros' coach.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, from that standpoint, I want to develop. But also we just get a lot of people on our YouTube and on our things say, hey, we want more video of you. Like we decided it's been slow recently. I go on Sevon's podcast a lot and I feel like around times when there's a lot going on, like the games, this competition, that we have less time to make our own content and more time to be a part of like other people's stuff. Yeah. But when things are slow, we have a couple video formats, coaching series or coaching class at CrossFit Charlotte is one of those. One to show what we offer as an affiliate. But also a lot of people are like, hey, it'd be cool to see you coach this more or that more. And I don't know. I think it's just, good. It's good exposure for us, again, to establish whatever expertise that we have. But also it's really cool to hear people like, hey, I learned to do this at my whiteboard brief, or I learned how to do this progression for this movement here, and it's making me a better coach. That's awesome.
I think that stuff is so valuable. And we talk about this, we've talked about it on the podcast almost with every guest of like, most really high level coaches have had great examples in front of them. So they know what good coaching looks like. You with Jeff, with Andy, clearly you've had great examples of what high level coaching looks like. And so you're able to mimic that. Right. So many affiliates and coaches don't have that opportunity. So more of that content that can get out of like, this is what it looks like in real time, not just here's a progression you can use, which is great and valuable, but you don't always see how that actually applies in real life. So I think that's awesome.
I'm very monkey see, monkey do. So that's for sure helps me a ton.
I think most people are. What is the genesis of your podcast? How did that come about? Oh, yeah. What exactly is it?
I'm interested to hear your guys' take on this. So the genesis of my podcast, me and JR's podcast, we just do a programming show once a week, and whether we're picking apart a guest programmer on main site or the quarterfinals workouts or Dubai's online qualifier, whatever, we just kind of break programming down and get into the weeds, so to speak. We do get into the weeds quite a bit. It came about, huh?
I mean, someone has to. Someone's got to get in there and get in the weeds.
We have to. It has to be done. No, we just like doing it. It started after the 2022 quarterfinal workouts came out. I believe I did them. They were announced. I was like, I did them. Then in April, I hurt my knee and I had nothing else to do, and I had to take my anger out on somebody. So I took it out on. I think Boz wrote those workouts.
Was that the second year? Was that the first year of quarterfinals? What year
was the second year?
Second year.
Yeah. So I made this crazy, I made all these graphics, and it was like workout 1 this year, last year. And they were like, man.
Oh, almost the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
it was bad. Bad, maybe put that in quotations. To my perception, it was bad.
What was bad?
Just how similar they were.
Gotcha.
Workout 3 or whatever. The final year 1 was burpee box jump overs, 185 snatches. The final year 2 was calorie row, burpee box jump over, 185 snatches. Second workout was first year rope climbs and GHD. Second year was GHD, pistol, muscle up. And then there were just things that were very like overlapping. And there was also a lot of turmoil going on in CrossFit. Dave had just gotten fired, all these things. So I'm like, what the fuck do I know about why or the broader context of what this was? So I did a show on it on Savant's podcast. And then kind of a programming show between me and JR got birthed out of that. I was at the time like, I was in contact or reaching out to Todd Widman to get like an internship to go on staff. And someone told Andy, I don't know who, and I don't want to know who, to be honest, but someone told Andy, was like, hey, after that show he did on Savant's, he's not getting on staff. Like,
really?
Shouldn't have said that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I get it too.
CrossFit HQ is traditionally taking receipts on things when you criticize stuff. So
I for sure would too.
Saying that to Andy, actually.
Yeah.
So
I would too. So I was pretty gung ho.
You seem willing to put yourself out there as like a crusader for a cause. And I think the first time we chatted, I'm like, you seem relatively like a CrossFit zealot. And you were like, that's appropriate. And I was like, okay. So what I am like wholly almost unwilling to go onto social anymore and like engage.
I get
what?
You go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say like, what do you, where's your mind with that? Like when you go out there and you like dive into stuff, like what's going on in your head? Like,
I think, this is a good question. In a broader sense, a lot of it probably has to do with, it's so easy to get roped into like outrage culture, like seeing stuff online. It's like I feel like for most people, social media is curated to get your emotions going. Like this really fires me up, or it gives me so much pleasure. And I think in a lot of ways, my feed is so curated to fire me up. So I see whether it's political things or like Tanner Shuck saying that strength training and starting strength is the most effective training modality for general health and fitness. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I just have to get my hands dirty in there. I've tried to do that a little less just for my own sanity. Just like, in some ways I think it's worth it. In some ways it's worth it. One, you can, if you do it in a rational way and a logical way, establish expertise to everyone looking at that particular piece of content. And you can just debunk a lot of bullshit. In another way, you can make yourself look like an asshole. And I'm good at that too.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? If people are looking at it with an open mind and actually curious about the outcome of the discussion and the points made, I think so many people in this day and age already have their mind made up. And so they're just going to listen so they can look for any place to crap on you and tell you what a jerk you are and how stupid you are, which is interesting.
We did a debate with that Tanner Shuck guy based off of the podcast he did with Mark Ripito. And the whole debate was like, hey, CrossFit versus strength training, like which is better? And their whole thing was CrossFit was completely random and you can't get progressively stronger doing CrossFit. And I was like, hey dude, if you take a normal person, which is what you guys are talking about, and you have them do 3-on-1 off, and say it's exactly like the programming course template, single modality Monday, couplet Tuesday, triplet Wednesday, off, a different single modality, say it's weightlifting or whatever. That person is 100% getting stronger. And there's no instance I've ever seen where that's not the case. And they're talking about general health and fitness, right? So strength to get up off the toilet when they're 80. I'm like, hey, Tanner, that's an air squat, right? That's not a 5x5. Yeah. They can get better at getting off the toilet by doing 50 air squats. They don't have to do a 5x5 at 5 pounds heavier every week. And it's this whole conversation. And I wish I would have used this analogy that a doctor at my gym gave me. He was like, hey, you can have your legs cut off and be in a wheelchair and you're still living life. You could have a lot of muscle atrophy and you're still living life. But if your heart stops working, you don't live. And so there's no room for this, I guess to extrapolate, you could do a 5x5 deadlift your entire life and still be chronically obese and really sick. But it's really hard to do CrossFit and embrace the methodology and still have a lot of chronic disease. You have to eat well. You have to do metabolic conditioning. You have to move your body weight through space.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, fundamentally, when someone comes and says like cross is just random, and you're like, you just don't understand. Like the second there's a few of those things when they say it, I'm just like, you'd be the easiest person to dismantle in a conversation.
Did you guys
another one? What's the other one? Someone will say fitness is an increase in work capacity across broad time and modal domains, and I'm like, that's close.
It's just work capacity.
It's just work capacity, but and an increase is what we're going for. So it's like people who've been in the community and they know the words, but then you're like, you missed it.
You actually don't know what you're talking about. Did you guys see the ESPN special? This had to have been like 2013 or something like that, with Ripito and Russell Berger talking about randomization of CrossFit and is CrossFit dangerous, and Russell just
crushed him,
annihilated him.
Good.
It was so bad that like the mediator from ESPN that was mediating the discussion pretty much got on Russell's side and started like I just felt so bad for Rip, man. It was tough.
I mean, I've met Rip so many times. I was at all the original gigs where Rip was teaching a strength section. The fact that he deviated and just was like, nah, fuck y'all, was so funny. Like, what I will give credit to him is he stuck to his guns. Like, this entire time, the guy said the same shit from the very beginning, and he stuck to his guns. Oh, funny. Anyway, so how you've also paired with, like, how did you? So you're under Savon's. Is that okay?
That's fair. Our podcast is on his channel, so yeah, in that regard, for sure. I did a podcast with him like that year that I tested at the ranch for Dave, and I didn't do much testing. I like went out there, basically got hurt immediately, and got paid to just watch them. But I had done a show with him before that, and we kind of just clicked and hit it off. I think we just have similar outlook in a lot of ways. I don't know, for whatever reason, we became good friends, and he's helped me a lot for sure, given me a platform. I for sure wouldn't have the success that I have with my program without him.
And that's led to this Kill Taylor. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. That's just, it's as R-rated. I mean, if you've seen the YouTube podcast Kill Tony, like it's a comedy a special where they allow a guest to get up and do a 1-minute stand up, and they, it's either funny or they just annihilate the guy. And it's kind of a twist on that where like I basically write my own workout. I can announce it beforehand. I don't have to. It's whatever I want it to be, and I do it live. And then anyone can call into the show and try to beat me. And if they beat me, they get money. And if no one beats me, the money rolls over to the next week. And while they're doing the workout, we shit on them like they do on Kill Tony. and it's brutal. Like some of it's, it's, I don't know. It's stayed pretty consistent. Blown up, maybe. We get a lot of good callers. I would say the audience right now is, I don't want to say fixed, but we've hovered around the same amount of views, which is a decent amount. I think our next step to growth is just being really consistent with the time every week. We've, so much travel, all these things going on. We've had a hard time being consistent with when, and that makes it hard for people to watch and call in consistently.
So do you tend to program stuff that is very wheelhousey for you?
For the most part. Sometimes I get lazy or risky. Past couple weeks I've had like JR program them because I've been busy and I've gotten beat both times. But then, there'll be a workout that I think I'm better than a lot of people in and I got beat. Like I did a swim burpee workout and the pot was at like $3,500 or $3,000 and a guy beat me. It was a Navy swimmer. I was thinking, hey, someone would have to be a really good collegiate swimmer and a semifinal level athlete to beat me in this. And it was exactly that. I wasn't banking on that happening. The guy was swam at Navy and was just, but yeah, so we've wheelhouse-ish for the most part. Sometimes not.
That's freaking rad. I love it. I love it.
That's really cool. Obviously you get a lot of exposure. How do you what else does that provide you? Do you think that gives you an edge when it comes to actually competing and preparing for the season?
It's definitely made me less sensitive to pre-competition nerves. But sometimes those can be good. Like being sensitive to pre-competition nerves can be a very good fuel source for like crushing yourself. So I don't know if that's necessarily TBD on whether it's a good or a bad thing. I was doing it for like 3 or 4 weeks before this previous semifinals, so I don't know that that's enough time to like say, hey, this help was helpful. We'll see. It's one thing that it is it's always for the most part like 2 to 8 minutes. It's a very narrow time domain, which is not typically my wheelhouse.
Pat, that was your wheelhouse back in your training days. You need to come up with something 2 minutes and see if we can get Pat to call in and give it a try.
Nice.
No, fuck that. Like I am so retired. It's not even funny. Like it's so funny. Like I see these guys like Chris Spieler. He'll get like a Rogue Invitational invite, and he's like, "I'm going," and I'm like, "There's no way." Like if I got this like thing in the mail, it'd be like Rogue Invitational. I never would because I was never a Rogue athlete. But like, I'd just be like, I'm sorry, man. Like, you want me to show up? I could say hi to people, but I would get annihilated by like normal people in gyms these days, and I have no issue with that. Like, I'm down there, and it's I'm in a different world than I used to be. But I'd throw down in a 2-minute something with Taylor. It'd have to be very specific, but it could be fun. So Taylor, what? You must like see some coaches, like you travel a bit, you drop into gyms, like you kind of do that. Like, what do you tend to see in our community? Is there what good things do you see from coaches in our community? What things do you wish would change a little bit when you drop into gyms?
I think in a general sense, what I see in the CrossFit community that I don't think you get really in any other, fitness chain or Globo gym is that people that really care like so much. And I think to me, if there's a reason that like one, CrossFit works, and it's really hard to create a CrossFit program that doesn't work. It's hard to fuck it up because the methodology is so great in terms of programming and workouts. That being said, I do think there is more room for people, like kind of you said, to have that monkey see, monkey do, see great coaching. Like you really only get it at seminars or if you work for someone who's on seminar staff to that level. And that also could be just because it's so new. Like we're still really, really new, and maybe, more level 3s will happen. But even level 3s, I see it's not like just because you have your level 3 doesn't mean you're a great coach. Yeah. You just know a lot.
Yeah. You can study and you can take a test.
Right.
I'd say that's fair. I wouldn't push back on that at all. I mean, I think that's totally fair. I think we just need more examples of great coaches. What I would say though is that if you started in 2016, so you're still relatively late. Like if Todd and I will go back to the very beginning, like the global coaching ability was non-existent. Like
that's a good
If you could memorize the points of performance, or if you could memorize the teaching progression that was used at the level 1, because it wasn't in the manual in like 2008 and 2009. Like if you just taught using a progression more than just showing the movement and having somebody try to mimic it, like that was, you were the best coach ever.
I'd say even go back further than that. Go back to like 2005 when like if you wanted to get a coach who changed your movement, you were a collegiate athlete. Like that's the only way you find a coach who is like there was no access. You couldn't walk into a gym and be like, coach me through the squat, random person who's here. Like
I would disagree with that, because in 2002 and 3, I was playing a collegiate sport, and in the summer times I was training with strength and conditioning coaches from Division I schools and like professional sports teams. And they had me doing things like overhead squats, but they didn't teach me how to do any of it. It was like, this is what it is. Try to do it. And it blew my mind, one. And then I was also training with a bunch of like D1 softball girls, and they would just whoop my ass in everything. And it just broke my heart and crushed me.
That's what I find so beautiful is like, even the worst coaches these days, the ones who like maybe just write it up on the board and then like say, hey, try this. Like even just like little tiny changes are like profoundly better than what existed for most of training's history when it came to these kinds of things.
Gen Pop.
What was that?
Gen Pop. I was wondering if that's where the connection between all of the Olympic training elements came to CrossFit because of how good those coaches are. I wonder.
Totally. I mean, I think I think Olympic lifting coaching in general got like way more accessible because there was more people who gave a shit about it. And like, even if they weren't great, like so many people came up from within the CrossFit community who went on to then coach Olympic lifting and have a huge passion for it. Cause it's kind of like one of the purest forms of like the nuance of the expression of the subtlety of movement. You know, it's like, that's what like precision and accuracy as well as strength and power. It's like, how can you combine the two in a very, very isolated setting and get micro changes that have big effects. Whereas most people don't need that. And that's why most of us do CrossFit instead of just Olympic lift. But it's been cool to see the changes. And I love how like we're all nerds about coaching and like really want to be better and more efficient at it. But the truth is it's so much better than it's ever been. It's I think that's like a global theme though. It's like we like to complain, but we don't realize like we're in one of the best times in human history.
Yeah, how good we actually have it, all things considered, for sure.
There's never really been a better time for the global. I mean, there are things that do suck, but it's like, I don't know. It's not just unique to the fitness space is what I'm saying.
Right. No. I get exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I could do a better job of remembering, how much we have for sure.
Anyway, we don't want to keep you too long. I'd love to hear the. Go ahead, Todd.
That's what I was going to say. Is that I don't think we can do this call on a best hour platform without bringing up the interaction that you had with Ackerman. I think a few weeks ago, months ago.
I want to hear about it because I didn't really hear it. So tell me about it.
Yeah,
this was from your perspective, Taylor.
Yeah, well, just
this
what
was one
happened
of my. Yeah, this was one of my outrage moments. This was his content was curated purposefully to my feed to create my outrage. It was a reel about like. And look, let's also be honest. I do it too. Hiller definitely does it. Jason can definitely do it. Where you create some content that's gonna generate clicks and maybe not.
Jason
not
does
all
that?
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought he genuinely believed that was the best way to say everything.
and
goodness.
Part of my outrage is me being so ignorant and naive to everything else that he posted and be like, he can't seriously believe this, and I'm just getting fired up about it. But it was something about like. If you worked out more than once a day, like you would miss out on relationships and business opportunities and all these other things in life. And my friend commented, was like, damn, he was like, damn, I did do Helen in the morning and Fran in the evening and I've never had a girlfriend. And maybe this is why, or something sarcastic like that. But, we just kind of went at it in that regard. But I don't think he ever tagged me specifically. He did the game and this was good for him. This is what you should do if you get into like a Instagram thing. You should never give the other person more exposure. And so he would like do a story, but he like wouldn't acknowledge me at all. It was funny.
That is the game that he plays.
So what's like? I feel like you're actually bought in and committed to the CrossFit methodology. And so from my perspective, what he was saying was just like. The general population, 99.9% of people need to show up to the gym, go to class, do one workout, go home, live your life. Don't get too caught up with training. And I feel like you actually believe that. Now, of course, there's some outliers. And so, like, what's your true belief with this thing?
That was my big discrepancy. I think he gave 3 examples of people who didn't need to just do one workout a day, and I didn't agree that it was just 3, and I also didn't agree with the way where like he kind of mocked them. Like, so I was feeling a bit attacked. He was like, you're a semifinal athlete, good job, mom and dad, hey, I made it to semifinals, come watch me. So I was like, whoa, dude. First off, I mean, it's really hard to get there. And then his example was a semifinal athlete, a games athlete, and then like, I don't know, 15-year-old sports athletes in high school or something. And I was like, well, there are maybe some, definitely a broader range of people that could potentially use it. And also maybe there are just people who like to do more than just a class. And that doesn't need to be 2 workouts, but maybe they show up 30 minutes early and they work on their muscle up and then do class. So it was me just, for the most part, being outraged at his content that was supposed to elicit outrage. So it worked. And then, yeah.
And almost
but
taking it too literal, right? To some degree. Yeah, because I think you guys both agree the same thing ultimately, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. I have a few friends in this community who are like that, who will post stuff, and I have to be like, dude, like, I can't. But they play the game. They do that. You know, like that's their. I mean, Savon's like that. Savon, like I agree with so much of what Savon says, but I'm like, you did not have to say it that way. You said it that way, like simply to get people to be like, "What the hell?"
Shock factor.
It's just like, oh gosh, darn. But like that's the world where we live in. It's any press is good press, right?
And Jay lives his life to where it's hard to be around him and not just make fun of him nonstop. So you're pretty much in line with the way that it goes, because it is hard not to. He sets it up on a tee all the time. So,
well, we appreciate that you went at him. If you would see like our work calls behind the scenes, it's just nonstop ripping on each other, and and so it's fantastic. I'm glad that back and forth happened, even though you probably think the same thing.
We do. And I wish I would have had a chance. I was supposed to go on their podcast at the games and just didn't get, all that stuff happened. So,
yeah. If I had to ask you, what's one thing you really want to see coaches in the future do, like you drop into their gym, what would you love to see them do? What would it be?
One thing I'd love to see coaches do more. Maybe coach effectively during the workout. I think that's something that doesn't happen at a lot.
Yeah.
You can be a great coach. I feel like you can do a lot of good things as a coach and miss on that. Yeah. And it's hard to do. I would say that's probably one of the harder aspects is work on.
What does that mean to you in terms of coach effectively during the workout?
Oh, well, like give a very concise cue that creates the change that you're looking for without stopping someone's intensity. Yeah. So that specifically, not just doing nothing. I mean, a lot of coaches, hey, if everybody's moving safely and they're getting a good workout in, it's like they just cheerlead. Yeah. But there are ways to get people moving better, being more efficient in their workout, whatever, by doing that. And I think that if you take an approach, if you're taking an approach to try to work on that, you're going to improve every other aspect of your game as a coach, because that's a hard thing to do, I think.
Hell yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you if they want to find you?
Right here, right there.
Taylor Midself.
Taylor. Wait, is that your full name?
Other side. Go to the other side of the screen.
Oh, really? On my screen, it looks like.
Yeah, there we go. Right there. That's it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's it. Now you pressed it.
That's my Instagram handle. Middleton is my middle name.
Gotcha.
Middleton. Yeah, it's not. Well, you could take me as average, meh. When I was a kid, this was a term to talk about marijuana, actually, believe it or not, and it was mids.
Really?
Yeah, it was dank or mids.
Dank was dank.
Yep.
I don't know mids. How old are you, Taylor?
29.
29. Just a spring chicken.
Exactly.
Just fresh out the womb. Well, cool, man. Taylor, mid-self, and then the podcast name, where can people find that?
Shut Up and Scribble. Yep, Shut Up and Scribble. Just go on the Savon podcast. We do a show every week.
Hell yeah. And then your program, where do we find that?
Sentinel Training. You'll find that on my Instagram. I have a link to go there, or at Train Sentinel.
Brad sauce. Well, thank you, man. Really appreciate it. We're going to log off, not steal the rest of your day, and stop recording.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Behind the Knowledge. Now, if you want help developing your coaching and to learn from us directly, check out The Knowledge Pro. There we host live calls with our coaches every week where we discuss content together and work on skills to improve our on-the-floor coaching ability. To learn more, you can head over to besthouroftheirday.com/theknowledge. And if you found this content helpful, we're going to be releasing new episodes every week, so subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.